had a really good week this last week. We think about where we were in the S&P 500 really moving forward, and we saw some good returns all the way across the board from the S&P 500 to small caps.
Yes, that is correct. It was actually a great week. Finally, the S&P 500 broke above its previous peak, which was set back in January of 2022. Seems like over the last couple of weeks, we've sort of approached that level, bounced off of it, but then all of a sudden, tech once again comes to the rescue of the markets and pushes us away above the S&P 500's previous peak.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Of course, we saw it was led by tech, and you'll recall that late last year, we thought that we were going to get a widening out of the rally, but really good returns out of two names that really blew the doors off, Taiwan Semiconductor and Super Microcomputers, up over 37% just on Friday alone.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. And they're not actually scheduled to release their numbers, their final numbers, until like January 29th. But they came out pre-announced because, honestly, they were just so good. I think that they were so excited they needed to share it with the world. And I'm grateful that they did. There was a lot of concern over the last few weeks that maybe the artificial intelligence hype had gone too far. But the hype is a bit of reality, especially for some of these companies. You look at the revenue growth. Taiwan Semiconductor, when we were listening in on that call, it was really fascinating because they have had a bit of an overhang as far as the tension between Taiwan and China. And there's been concerns about, are there going to be restrictions as far as their ability to send chips to different places? But they guided very strongly as far as what 2024 might bring as far as people upgrading their equipment to really take advantage of artificial intelligence. A lot of people did computer upgrades during COVID. Everybody was working from home, but maybe people need to do another upgrade so they can start using some of this newer technology.
There was this big event that was happening in Davos, Switzerland. It's an annual event, and all they talked about was artificial intelligence. It kind of made me feel a little nervous that was their key topic. But let's talk about what Davos, Switzerland, and the event is.
Sure. Yeah. So in Davos, they call it, they refer to it by the city's name, but it's the World Economic Forum. And they do it every single year where they fly in very wealthy individuals and powerful people from different parts of government.
Surprised you weren't there, Brian.
Yeah. Strangely, I suspect my invitation got lost in the mail.
Sure.
That must have been it, right? Because it's a lot of people that sometimes they're like, it's a bunch of billionaires getting together, trying to talk about the world's problems and come up with solutions.
And flying in on all their private jets and talking about
climate
green energy, by the way, yes. But that is what happened. And of course, a couple of people weren't invited, including Elon Musk, which was interesting. But they talked a lot about AI. So there was a rally in some of these tech stocks that we thought could expand. But what they really did talk about as well is a lot of economic news.
They did. And they are very concerned about, like information security. How is it that they're going to actually regulate artificial intelligence? The economic numbers have been very favorable. Christine Lagarde, chair of the European Central Bank, she spoke about how monetary policy there in Europe, they've had inflation coming lower, but not fast enough for her tastes, where she's thinking that they should maybe start cutting rates, let's say in the middle of summer, so perhaps in June. So there are some concerns, especially over in Europe, about the slow growth and inflation coming down not as quickly as in the U.S. I think we tend to forget that the United States had very good economic growth in 2023. Europe, not so much.
Right. And we do want to spend some time on that economic news, but I want to come back. You mentioned Christine Lagarde. She's suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. She did say that if he does get elected, well, first of all, she tried to gather some support from Germany and some other countries that said that he will be hurtful not only to the economics, but also to NATO. So she's getting involved in politics, which is really surprising.
It shocked me when I heard what she said, because oftentimes the people in those positions in governments know better than to opine on other countries' elections, but that was clearly not top of her mind this time.
Did I see you Friday on CNBC? You were talking about cash. Did you get into it with Ron Asano a little bit?
It was a little bit. We had a little bit of a disagreement there.
Right.
It was friendly, though.
No, it was friendly, and I'm glad. I mean, overshot out of the new headquarters, and they showed the entire world that the snow that was covered in Wisconsin. And there was a debate between you and Ron Insana about what was going to happen with the Federal Reserve and when these cuts were going to happen. There wasn't a debate that they were going to have a cut. It's when they begin.
Exactly. And so his point was that he thought that they would cut very soon and do it aggressively because they can. So in the background of actually good economic data. So it's very different if they're cutting in the face of economic strength or weakness. And they can do it in strength because inflation is coming lower. Our point that we've discussed on the investment committee is they might want to do this as a two-step. They might want to first slow the pace of the shrinking of their balance sheet and then set up the rate cut. So it's really a matter of the timing of the first cut that we disagreed on, and then also the pace at which they're going to need to cut.
And we're going to spend a lot of time on that when we come back. But folks, a lot of things are happening right now, and we're getting cross currents from across the world. Everything, as we know, in the Middle East, the Red Sea. And so this is the time to know what you own, why you own it, and how much you're paying for it.